Hello, everybody, and welcome to Called Up the Prospects podcast. I'm Chris Peters of FloHockey, joined as always by Cam Robinson of Elite Prospects. He's in Buffalo. I'm in my mom's basement. Literally, I am podcasting from Chicago, and I am in the basement that I grew up in. These used to be wood panels right here. This is now nice and white paint, but not much there. So, yeah, I'm podcasting literally from my mom's basement. Cam, how you doing out there?
Oh, man, that is for every hockey man who has ever tried to twist the knife on what we do. Hey, you are just giving him more ammunition. You are the poster boy from a keyboard warrior from his mom's basement. You're a mic warrior, I guess, today.
Today, I am a mic warrior. Yes, I am, Cam. But you were in Buffalo. You just got back from the player availability out there. We're going to talk draft because it is draft week, and the draft is Friday. We're recording this on Thursday. We're going to try and get it out this evening, and then all you guys can enjoy this and get your draft preview. We've got a listener Q&A today, but Cam and I are also going to empty the notebook a little bit, talk about some of the things that we've heard. It's been a very active week, and so we're going to try to recap that and how that reshapes the draft. We're even going to do a redo of the top six of how we think it's going to go now that Buffalo is part of it all of a sudden, and also what San Jose does and how that telegraphs what they're doing. But want to remind you guys that go ahead and subscribe to FloHockey, subscribe to Elite Prospects. Make sure you are getting there. We've got that promo code with Cam33 over at Elite Prospects. We've got an early bird offer at Flo. So make sure you're getting that out, get that there. Because as I've said to you many times, you don't have to listen to us. You can just scout it yourselves, and we'll get you a discounted offer, 9 months, basically the equivalent of 9 months free if you get the annual plan at FloHockey, 33% off over at Elite Prospects if you use Cam33. So, hey, we've got a lot of good things for you. So we're not only giving you information today, we're giving you deals. And so hopefully you guys enjoy that. But Cam, let's get into it. You are in Buffalo. You just talked to all the top prospects. Things are going. First of all, what's the vibe out there? It's the day before the draft. The guy, how are the players looking? Who's excited? Who's nervous? What do we got?
Pouring rain. It's pouring rain, which is always fun. Vigo asked if I wanted to go golfing because I was like, "What do you got going on now?" He's like, "We're going golf," and I was like, "Oh, I wish sounds like a great time." He's like, "You should come." I was like, "Oh, I got to do this podcast instead."
We got to talk about you.
Out, though. It is quite really. It is quite literally coming down in sheets though, so it doesn't look like great weather for Bjork and company there. Who's nervous? Everybody's nervous. Like even Belchez, even the guys that aren't jet lagged coming from Europe are saying sleep is tough. Sleep is tough right now. But they're excited. They're nervous. I'm kind of I'm that guy in the scrums in these situations. You've seen me, Chris, right? When everyone's jockeying for position, trying to get their cameras in there, and there's Cam just kind of lurking around, poking his head in, tweeting a little something, and then I wait until these guys are done, and then I swoop in, and I'm super greedy, and I get them one-on-one. So I got a chance to chat with a bunch of the boys one-on-one, shot a couple fun videos. It's good, though. It's different without the teams here. Obviously, this is the second year we're doing it like this. But the media, there was more media here than I thought there would be. Less of the friends that I would normally be hanging out with, Mr. Peters, but still loads of media here. And
Sorry.
NHL, they're feeding us, and we got free food and drink coming tonight, so it could be worse.
Yeah, no, the draft is a great event, even though the teams aren't there, and certainly miss being there. We'll be doing that live stream with the Athletic Hockey Show times FloHockey, and we are doing lots of stuff with that. So that's coming up too. But Cam, let's get into it because this week could not have been crazier in terms of not only what it meant for the NHL, but what it means for what's going to happen on Friday night. And, the first things first, one reason I think there is a lot more media there. Who has the number one pick? It is, of course, the Toronto Maple Leafs. Who do they want to talk to? They want to talk to Gavin McKenna. Now, before we get into anything else, Cam, there's no way the Leafs are going anywhere other than Gav, right? I mean, are we feeling like it is locked down 100% Gavin McKenna's a Maple Leaf?
Let's call it 97.5%. I think there's always a little bit of wiggle room. I am very much expecting Gavin McKenna to go one, though. But, I said it in my bold predictions article. If there's one guy who could zig when everybody's expecting a zag, it is John Chaika. But I do think we can call it. We can rubber stamp it. I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. Now, so Gavin McKenna, a lot of people, the Toronto Marlies just won the Calder Cup. There were a lot of people rocking McKenna jerseys in the crowd over there at Coca-Cola Coliseum celebrating the Calder Cup with the old Marlies over there. So, so that's that. But then second overall, the Sharks were wheeling and dealing. William Eklund goes out. They get a number 9 overall back in that deal. You know, they're making moves all over the place. Now we're seeing a little bit more clarity, I would think, with Eklund out. Although Mike Greer did say yesterday, everybody's assuming, like you're basically speculating that we're taking Stenberg, but 6'2" right shot mobile defensemen don't grow on trees either, which I thought was funny, but I also think it was a little bit of a troll. So now we see the number 2 pick. I mean, it's got to be Stenberg, right? Like at this point, you know, I think I guess it could be Chase Reid, but it feels like it's got to be Stenberg, doesn't it, Cam?
You know, I've been kind of saying it for a while now that my gut has thought it was going to be Stenberg the whole time, even though it made sense to go D there. Moving out Eklund obviously opens up a spot for them to now bring in Stenberg, and it makes perfect sense. But they still haven't solved their issue. Now, where they could solve their issue is with that number 9 pick. And so that could be Daxon Rudolph. That could be Keaton Verhoff. Maybe. I don't think Verhoff gets to 9. But I'm also told that, you know, they made that deal to get rid of Eklund to get 9, fully expecting, I think, that they were going to get Bowen Byram. That they were going to flip 9, 27, and something else and get Bowen Byram, and then Chicago scooped him. So now they're sitting there being like, oh, do we use 9? Do we use 9 in a different trade? You know, Nikishin's on the block, and pretty certain that they are talking to Carolina heavily about Alexander Nikishin. So they're certainly a team that's still looking to splash and kind of be the main characters for the week here. So I think we can still keep our eyes on them, but I do feel, again, I'm not willing to say 100% by any means, but I think that the safe money is Stenberg at 2.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about Bowen Byram now. We're going to skip a little bit ahead because I do think Stenberg, like let's say that that's not quite rubber stamped, but I'd say an 85% chance that it's Stenberg. Yeah. So let's go that way. And then let's talk about Chicago was the other team that really shook things up. We don't see top 5 picks move very often. I was shocked to see, it's all like, what was it? It's been like 15 years, I feel like.
Almost, yeah.
Like 15-ish, right? More? Yeah, something like 08? That. So,
was it 08?
Yeah, geez. Yeah, somewhere in there. So either way, doesn't move. Do you expect, like when you see, okay, well, it's Bowen Byram moving for a 4th, and he was a 4th himself. We'll put that out there. But a left shot defenseman, you know, I was surprised to see that was what ended up happening. But the interesting thing was this whole kind of idea that San Jose was in on Byram as well. The fact that the Hawks had the higher draft pick in order to get it from him. Like I had basically thought, well, if you see, you know, what San Jose is doing kind of with the rest of their board, like after they made that trade for Eklund, that seemed to set off the alarm bells that Chicago wasn't going to get Stenberg. And that's where I think that precipitated the trade. So now all of a sudden you've got this situation where Bowen Byram moves for a 4th overall pick. I would love to hear your reaction and thoughts when you saw that, because I certainly know mine. I'll reserve the rest of them for a little bit, but I want to hear what you thought when you saw that deal go down.
Okay, so first off, I'm going to push back a little bit that them thinking they wouldn't get Stenberg facilitated that trade and ignited that trade for them. I've been pretty clear about this too. Like, number one, I don't think they thought Stenberg was going to be there anyways. But even if he was, I'm not sure he was their guy. I think that they were going to go defense there. I think that they were hoping Chase Reid would slip to 4. And if he didn't, I think it was going to be Keaton Verhoff. I do. And so
I don't think so.
I think so. And we'll go. You see, we're not at the media dinner tonight to really hammer this out over a couple of cocktails. But
right.
I think they were going D. And I think that they looked at it and they thought, you know, even if it is Chase Reid, that's years away from helping this team, really moving the needle for this team. And I think that they are looking, you know, Connor Bedard, his entire ELC was spent at 31st or worst in the league. They know they need to move forward. And so, you know, for Kyle Davidson, like, he can keep laying it up and dropping lag putts in there and going for, you know, easy pars and bogey here and there. But at some point, you got to go for the green in 2. And a play like this, it's like Bowen Byram's young. You know, he had 7 power play points last year. He still put up like 11 goals and 40 points. Didn't he get 40 points? I think 42 points. So now all of a sudden you give him all the power play time. You get him with Connor Bedard. You know, yes, you're going to have to pay him. Yes, I thought it was an overpay, but I'm not upset that Davidson had the stones to take a big cut, because at the end of the day, you need to take big swings to make things happen. And so, you know, that's where they landed, and other teams were willing to pay for it. Like we said, San Jose, you know, I'm pretty sure that they were willing to go 9.27 plus, which is also a hefty price tag for Bowen Byram. But when you drop a number 4 overall, like, there's a reason Chicago got him, because you can't beat that.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, I think the fact that the Chicago trade happens after the San Jose trade, I think is completely related. It's completely related to that. And that's the thing where I just don't think that they, like, not that they're like totally comfortable with what they have in their D system, but I just think that there was basically like, hey, like, there's a 50-50 shot that San Jose goes Reid, you know, maybe Vancouver, if they go Malhotra, all of a sudden Stenberg is there. And I think that was the premium winger that they could have wanted for that. The other thing that I'll say too is that, you know, Kyle Davidson took a big cut, but he hit a ground rule double. Like, Bowen Byram, there's zero evidence that he's a number 1 defenseman in the NHL. Now, he did have that limited power play time last year and the high point production. So it is a swing. And is Bowen Byram now going to help you? And I completely agree that Bowen Byram is going to help you much more in the near term than a Chase Reid or a Carson Karls or any of those guys would. The question being, you know, and I think, like, for Chicago, you know, they need to start making those kinds of moves to take advantage of Connor Bedard as he's entering his prime, because you can't just get by on a complete roster full of 25 and younger players, though that's still Bowen Byram, a younger player that, you know, they mentioned that the age profile was a big part of why they, you know, wanted to get him now at that price. So still, I just think it's, you know, I think it's a huge overpay, because this is a guy that was traded for Casey Middlestat just a couple of years ago, you know, so it's just, the thing is like, you know, we've had 2 different organizations, and obviously one, he had Cale Makar in front of him, and the other had Rasmus Dahlin in front of him. And so, yeah, of course he's not going to be playing at that top level, but, you know, as much as I like Bowen Byram, because he is a really good player. I mean, like, that's the thing is, unfortunately, players are viewed tied to whatever value is put on them. And this to me was a big overpay. A lot. It was a lot. It had immediately sticker shock for me as well too. Yeah. But I do like, the more it sat with me, the less it's upset me. How about that? Is that I'm less like you can see the logic. I think you can see the logic. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You can see the logic, and you hope it works out. And if it doesn't, now it's trouble. But, you know, what are they? They got 3 firsts next year or something like that too. Like, they're still, you know, they're still in the growing phase. You don't want to miss on that. Like, if he ends up being like, he's just like, oh, he's a pretty good second pair guy, that's brutal, right? But they're going to give him 28 minutes. They're going to give him all the ozone start times, all the power play times. They're going to inflate his value simply through, hey, listen, we had to trade this for him, and now we have to pay him like $11 million a year. He's going to get opportunities to put up 60 points. If he can put up 15 and 60, you're like, okay, well, that worked out.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think, if you have that player, if he's playing, you know, upwards of 20, 25 minutes a night, and he's on your number 1 power play, like, the numbers should theoretically come. I still think, you know, I look at that team and I'm like, well, they're still not making the playoffs next year, because the rest of the D-corps, like, there's so many questions, because Levshinov needs to take a big step. Renzel needs to take a step. You got to figure out what you're doing with Korchinski, whether or not he's going to be in your NHL plans or not. You know, you have like the fact that Crevier was also in the deal, so now your depth takes a hit on top of it. So
I didn't love that.
That was an interesting one too. Yeah, so it's just kind of like that, and also Jordan Greenway's in the trade. You have 2 guys that are going to help you now. Jordan Greenway will play down your lineup, you know, but at forward. So really interesting. But Cam, this also, let's talk about the team on the other side of this trade too, because now look at Buffalo. Alex Tuch is gone. Bowen Byram is gone. They did re-sign Zach Benson to a long-term contract at a fantastic value, I think, as well. Mm-hmm. Now they've got the number 4 pick. What the heck do they do? Like, now, I think one of the premium defensemen is going to be available there. You know, you look at kind of some of their recent drafts with Benson, Oslin, Hellenius, players like that, but does that rule them out for taking a forward? Could we see 4 forwards go before we see a defenseman? I wonder about that. But what do you got here? What are you thinking and we're going to do our mock draft a little bit later, so you'll get a little bit of an idea of the order of things. But I mean, what the heck does Buffalo do with that pick now?
First of all, we just spent a couple minutes there kind of defending / ripping Chicago. Buffalo did very well, right? Like, no questions asked. They saw a market that is looking good to sell in, and they're like, oh, we can get a piece of this. That was a great pull for them. Jarmo is hyper aggressive, and I love that for him. Again, love the Zach Benson extension. Tremendous value. He's going to be like a core piece of that team, and he's only getting better. Love that player. What do they do at 4? I know LeBron was on Insider Trading there, and he says that, teams around the league, everybody thinks that Buffalo is going to move that pick. They're going to flip that pick. Wouldn't shock me if they went out. I know that they've been talking to Toronto about Nyes. Obviously there's so many big names out there right now. Jason Robertson, Dylan Larkin, is Werenski's name out there? There's a lot of Hellebuck, right? Could they move him for something like that? Maybe. I would be a little surprised hosting the draft if they ceded that podium to Toronto at 4th overall. That would, I wonder if that would play a little bit of a role in there too. But I mean, if they want Matthew Nyes badly enough, they'll do it. But I was told that they are very, very excited to get the 4th overall pick while hosting the draft. And that, I think option A is to keep the pick, and I think it is to target a center, and I think that'll be Caleb Malhotra. So if the draft plays out the way I think it's going to play out, I think it'll be Malhotra at 4 to Buffalo.
So that and we skipped over him only for the sake of things, but let's pause there to go back to Vancouver real quick then. So yeah. You're of the mind that it is not going to be Caleb Malhotra at number 3 for the Canucks.
That's right. Yeah. And I've been hearing that more and more going back the last couple of weeks from, tapped in people, team side people around the family. Like, it's that, again, like not that it would be an issue for him playing for his dad, but more that just like to let him write his own story, to not have that constantly be a part of the dialogue, just having that, it would come up every scrum. Like, you see it, like I haven't asked the kid once about, what do you think about we're playing for your dad? Well, it's like, that's all he gets asked about. At the combine, here at media availability, everybody's asking, what is Manny? Like, what is your dad been giving you advice? Like, how's your dad? What do you want to play with your dad? Like, everything is about his dad. Nobody's asking about, you had such a great playoffs, like, tell us about that. What was that like? Going on a run and not quite making it. Like, nobody's asking these questions. And so it's just like already showing. And he's not even picked by that team. Now, again, like, if it was Caleb, tier gap, other players, Vancouver would probably be like, sorry, you're coming, right? But because it's such a tightly knit group there, because Vancouver is supposed to be bad for so long, and it's not like they need to pick a position right now. They need to take a really good player and just keep building along. Chase Reid is sitting right there, 6'3", right shot D, best chance of being a number 1 defenseman. I think it goes McKenna, Stenberg, Reid, and that leaves Malhotra for the Sabres. And I think that'd be a great fit for them too.
And you'd say Malhotra over Bjork in that?
I think that there are people in that organization that really like Viggo Bjork, and obviously, like, they weren't expecting to have a pick at that spot, and so after Trading Tuesday went down, their meetings began on Wednesday, and they were gonna dig in to that part of the draft, right? And yesterday and today, and figure out what's what. But without any like proper intel coming from that organization, I'm guessing that it would be Caleb over Viggo. But I mean, I was down there talking to Viggo today, and he doesn't have any indication either yet, right? Like, he's hoping to go super early, but he's wondering as much as everybody else, like, who's going to take him.
Yeah. Well, in the TSN poll that I completed with Craig Button, that came out on Monday, Viggo was ahead of Caleb on the consensus list by 1, and that was really interesting. He was 5, Caleb was 6th. So that's, it's not everybody's list. Obviously, it's a segment of teams, and all of a sudden you're kind of looking, and so it's not a perfect science in that way. But all of a sudden, it's that conversation. I think if you're the Sabres too, and you're talking about Bjork, you're okay. Well, we have Benson, we have Oslin, we have Hellenius. Yeah, none of them are giants. They're not big guys. Exactly. And so it does come down to team fit, and I think Malhotra is a really interesting one in that way. So we'll get to that a little bit more. One thing I wanted to talk about with you, in addition to this, so the way that board sets up, we'll get to the Rangers and the Flames in our mock draft portion when we get there, because we're going to do the 6 of them. But is there anybody that we have talked about regularly as being kind of in this tier of player that could go in like the top 13, 14 picks? Is there anybody you think slips out of that group?
Out of the top, that group that we think, is kind of those top 12
like where we're talking Gustafsson, Lawrence,
yeah,
Belchets, that kind of group that always seems to end up in those like 13 to 14 range. Even Cullen is in and out of both of those, so like you never really know.
Yeah, I think Cullen is in that group. I do. Honestly,
I do too.
I don't know if there's I don't know if there's a real disruptor that's going to come outside of that group. Like, I'm just pulling up my mock right now. Like,
it's tough. It's tough.
I don't think so.
There's one.
Command?
I have one name. So I think Command could be the guy that kind of comes in and disrupts and could potentially go ahead of Tynan Lawrence. That's the one where Command has had some late heat. Lawrence has had some late cool down, I think, from some of the scouts coming out of the combine and some of the things that I've heard. I do think that there's a lot
didn't do great at the combine interviews.
Not great, and I also think that part of the I don't know if it was necessarily the interview so much, but I think like there was definitely a lot of people have criticized the decision that was made. And how it went from there. Is that enough to push him down? I know there are teams that are in the mid-teens, later 20s, kind of that are just like, hey, there's a chance. At least there's a chance this guy could be there, and so they're aiming for that. And so that also speaks to Alexander Command's incredible push up the boards. I think his under 18s, his interviews, his everything. Like, he is a really intriguing player to me. The compete level, the physicality, all those things, like teams are like, hey, you know what? Like, this guy might be the premier two-way center that we can have that's going to score for us. And so that's the name to watch, I feel like, in the Reiser and Lawrence being the one that could potentially slip, but we'll still wait and see on that one. Any other Risers, Faller? Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, no, I was just told late last night to watch out for Command, like even at like 10 for Nashville. And I was like, oh, shoot. Yeah. I'd already submitted my mock, and I was like, I got him down at 16. But I think we'd heard that closer to 10 than 20 for a lot of teams, for sure. But, getting up to 10, that'd be Nashville. I mean, Chris McFarland, I could see it.
Yeah, I could too. I mean, like, yeah, he's just one of those guys. I think with the center position, like he could. I think he could go ahead of Lawrence. I think he could potentially go ahead of Belchets and Cullen as well. And so those are the guys. Like, I think it's harder for him to like Gustafsson and one of Gustafsson and Rudolph or Smits maybe. I don't know, but that's the thing. Like, figuring out now that the top 5 has changed, it really does kind of change the dynamic in terms of like where guys we think they're going to go and where things are going to end up. But there's a lot of really intriguing things happening. Before we move on from the risers and fallers, do you think there's anybody, not necessarily to jump up into the big range of the top 10 outside of Command, but anybody else that you feel like has some maybe late heat coming into the draft that you would spotlight, or anybody that maybe is going the other way that you think is notable?
Tommy Bleyl. I think Tommy Bleyl has juice. So I asked a few teams. I'm going to pull up my text right now. I asked a few teams. I haven't written the article yet about who they think people are getting wrong on the public side, who did themselves a favor. And I'll just give the listeners here a little preview before that comes out tomorrow for some of the names. Runso, he was named a couple of times as somebody that a few teams thought would go earlier. Rudolph earlier. Savanto later, which I thought was interesting. I think Savanto's going like right around 20s, 21. Yeah. I think Philadelphia, given to Philly in the mock, I think that would be a good fit there. Command earlier, Lagenberg earlier. And then this one was interesting too, was Borichev could potentially sneak into the first round. I thought was
interesting.
We see it every year.
You know the thing about Borichev, one thing on Borichev, so he was at the Gold Star camp, which I was not at, but he measured in below 6'3". He measured in at 6'2". For a goalie, that's actually bad. Like he's, when you measure a little bit shorter than you are, 6'3" is like, and 6'2". But either way, I don't know that will scare people away from the first round. He's one of those goalies that people think could go early, but he's a tough one though, isn't he? Because he played 24 games this season, 25 games, somewhere in there. So that's a tough one.
Yeah, in the M, it is. But if goalies, if teams are willing to take a swing at that, especially at that point of the draft, like if we're talking about 30, if you're picking around that zone, it's like you're swinging on potential, right? You're swinging on could a team like Carolina do something weird like that? Probably not. They'd probably just trade back and get the second best goalie at like 40 and pick up extra picks, but.
Man, it's these last couple of days. It's just it's like who knows, man? Who knows? It's so great. Yeah, it's so great. I think there's so many different like little wild cards. Like I think the Vigo is a bit of a wild card in the top 10. Maybe he doesn't get past 6, but like we'll see where that ends up. Daxon is for sure because there's a wide range of opinions on that player as well. So we'll see. We'll see where it all ends up. But now, if you're the Sharks and you now have that number 9 pick, you're like, well, there's nothing but good options here. Something is still going to be available for us there, but. Yeah, it'll be interesting. And I'm also like the other thing that I kind of want to see this. I kind of want to see the Sabres trade number 4 again because I want to see what they get out of it. Because I'm in Chicago, I'll be able to witness whether or not the city, eats itself after that because of the if they got something like. Something in the range of a Hellebuck, that's a different story. That seems like that would be a monumental deal that would take a lot more than that. But that's still.
Yes, it's like goalies don't have value. I know. It's like that. That's the weird thing that it's like. It's Connor Hellebuck, but it's like it's still goalies just don't carry value. But I guess if one would, it would probably be him, just because the contract's not terrible. He's a winner, at least internationally. But for that 9 pick, just one last thought on that too is that I mocked this out like a million different ways, going through it, like really diving in for information, trying to get as current stuff as I can, talking to teams. I think that there's like, no matter how I slice it, San Jose is going to get a shot at one of the right shot D. I think either Rudolph or Verhoff, and if they don't, it's Vigo. That means Vigo's still there at 9. Like that's the only really way I see it shaking out. And in which case it's like, talk about a win-win for San Jose, right? Either they solve their right shot or they get Vigo right? Like, and how much fun would that be sliding that guy into that lineup too, right? So it looks like if they hold on to that, but I think Mike Grier is going to be highly active in trying to move that pick though.
I think so too. I think it'll be really interesting. All right, we're going to get to our top 6 mock in just a second. Before we do that, there was some big news for the 2027 draft that came out yesterday. We've been talking about it a lot. Mm-hmm. The Landon DuPont sweepstakes have ended, and the winners are the University of Michigan. So Landon DuPont, projected number 1 pick for next year, going to the University of Michigan, where he'll be one of their top defensemen. It'll be a team that has legitimate national championship aspirations with a number of returning players, including Michael Hage, who is a big time, should be, Hobey Baker candidate next year, the way things are going. Cam, you've been on this for a while. We've been talking about it for a while. A lot of us thought, eventually it was going to be Michigan, but it's Michigan. So now thoughts after all that.
Yeah, I'll say this is that I definitely pissed off more than a few people last week when I tweeted that I thought Michigan had the better pitch simply because Michigan State had Chase Reid coming. And so I think I pissed off Henry Muse and Cam Reed and both their agents and all their families. I think I pissed off MSU because they're like, hey, these guys are great power play quarterbacks too for Michigan. Like, just because we got Reed coming in. So that's too bad. But I mean, like, do people actually think that what I say is like influencing these kids' decisions? Because if they do, I want to cut. I want to cut.
Yeah, no kidding.
Because I think I angered some people last year on Gavin McKenna leaving, and I want to cut of his future pay earnings. I want to cut of Landon DuPont. Let's just slip me off a percentage, boys. Slip me off a percentage. I think it's a great fit. I think it's a tremendous fit for him. I think Naruto is a great coach. I think that he's going to fit seamlessly into in their offensive scheme. I think that, he is, we all look at the numbers. Landon DuPont, he is an excellent defenseman. Like, he defends very well. JP Hurlburt, talking to him today about how excited he is to be playing with him next year. He's like, mentioned, great skater and like so good offensively, but he's just like, his brain's a separator. He's so smart. The IQ is a separator. Yeah. It's very true. He is a fully well-rounded player, and I think that he's going to transition to college hockey, dare I say, better than Gavin did last year, even though he's playing defense, which is a more technically responsible position than a wing. I think it's going to be great for them. I really do. I already had booked my hotel to go out to Denver for that Natty rematch there in October, and now I'm fully pumped about it too. Right now, it's even better.
Yeah. So I love that. So I had noticed Corey Masizak tweeted that, hey, guess Michigan's coming to play at Denver. You know who retweeted that? David Carl.
Yeah, David Carl.
He's like, can't wait. I was like, can't wait. Can't wait, and that's the thing is like, because DU was part of the process. DU was part of the process. Yeah. They eventually got Dax and Rudolph, and I think it was kind of a race to commit, and they got Rudolph, and that was it. And they're like, we got our team now. So, it's going to be really interesting to see. DU is a little bit different, in terms of having Ryan Lynn, Dax and Rudolph coming in, playing a big role right away. But that's going to be a really fascinating matchup. We've got North Dakota versus Michigan State in Austin, Texas. That's one I think I'm going to be making the trip down for as well. On Halloween, I know. My daughter's not going to be happy with old dad. Right? I know. I probably will. So I'm a terrible father. So that's the way it goes. But
I'm going to go out to Nodak. I'm going to go out to Nodak early for that Western Michigan set, I think, or maybe against Duluth right in early December. So I'll go hang out with them then. But also that Michigan MSU home and home, got to hit that one up too.
I mean, there's so many great games. So many. Cam, maybe it's gonna be off the charts. And we also saw Western Michigan got a big CHL commit. Vanacek committed yesterday. I think he's coming in 27, maybe. Unless he's coming in next year. I can't remember which. It's all running together now.
I think he's going next year.
That's the thing. Yeah. He's going next year. Okay, so and that's.
I think so. Yeah.
I'll tell you what. Western Michigan is a heck of a spot for for a lot of these guys, because I think Pat Ferschweiler, who was in the mix in Toronto towards the end there,
I know, love seeing.
He's a guy that is going to be a hot commodity as well. So lots of great things happening. But we're excited for next season. But we're going to stick with this season because there's plenty to talk about now. We're going to go into our top 6 mock draft here. And Cam, let's give our predictions of what we think will happen here. We'll each give our predictions of what we think. I think number 1, I think we're on the same page here. Number 1, Gavin McKenna. Any objection? Can we move right past that? All right. So number 1 to the Toronto Maple Leafs, Gavin McKenna, premier wing. I think he's saying all the right things right now, isn't he, Cam? Like, he's saying all the things. The quote that he gave that I love is that how he felt like he could help Austin Matthews, as opposed to just being like, it'd be amazing to play with Austin Matthews. He's such a cool player. I can't wait. He's like, I think I can find people in the right spaces. I'm going to get there. So Gavin McKenna there. Number 2, this is when the fun begins. Number 2, what are we thinking we're going to see the San Jose Sharks do now that we know everything that we know, Cam?
Stenberg.
I'm also on Stenberg. I think it was hilarious. Like Mike Greer did say in a press conference, everybody's speculating it's Stenberg, but right shot defensemen don't grow on trees. And I still think that he was trolling when he said that, which I absolutely love. So anyway, more trolling from general managers, please. Number 3, the Vancouver Canucks. And we've talked about it already. Where are they going, Cam?
Chase Reid.
He's going Chase Reid. I'm going to go with Caleb Malhotra, even though I'm talking to the Vancouver guy on the other side here. And while I just don't know, I just don't know. And I feel like they've liked him before Manny Malhotra was their coach. So I'm just kind of wondering. Yes. But yes, we'll see. So now there's one where we can see who will be accurate on that one. So I'll go Malhotra. You are going Reid. Who do we got at number 4 then?
Yeah, I'll go Malhotra. I'd love it to be Vigo. Not to, that I don't love Caleb, but Vigo's my guy. But I'm going to go Malhotra here.
Yep. So you'll go Malhotra. Since I went Malhotra last time, I'm going to go with Chase Reid, and I feel like getting a right shot defenseman, even though you've got some of that decor solid up, I think that this is going away from Bowen Byram, who you weren't going to be able to pay, getting a guy in maybe a year or two that will be cost controlled and maybe give you some of the same elements of the game, and perhaps even in a better package. I think I'll go with Chase Reid there. All right. Number 5 then, Cam. Number 5 to the New York Rangers. Who you got?
I think this is Albert Smits, and I think it's with a bullet. I think this is Smits.
Wow.
Not slam dunk 100% Smits, but I think, I've heard the Rangers really, really like Albert Smits. I think if somehow Malhotra had slipped to them, that he would be their guy, but I think it's Smits. If this board falls, I think
I think there's absolutely a chance that the Malhotra pick is there, depending on, like, who knows? And if Buffalo trades that pick, whoever gets it, that could change the whole dynamic. Like, that's the thing. Like,
totally.
If Toronto's willing to make a trade that can get them into the 4 spot, then all of a sudden they get their defenseman that they sorely need in this one. So we'll have to see where that all goes. But that's so you've got Smits there. I don't know why I've leaned Carls for them, but you sound pretty confident, which makes me less confident in what I'm saying. But I'll, just for the sake of being different, I'll go Carls, and you can have Smits, who is absolutely a wide-ranging opinion defenseman. There are a lot of teams that really like him, and a lot of teams that say he could probably maybe get some games with us next year, or play on their AHL team right away, unless they want to send him back to Finland. So that's the option too.
He'll be in the American League for sure, or NHL.
Yeah. I think that's the best play for him at this point, anyway. All right, so we finish off with number 6, Calgary. Where are you going here, Cam? He's on the board. He's there. Are we going with him?
This is Carson Carls, 100%. Not 100%, but this is Carson Carls. This is Carson Carls music. I think that it is a perfect fit for Calgary. I think Calgary would be very upset if your world played out and they lost him the 1 pick before. I think they've got their sights on him, and I think it's, again, great fit, right? Nemec and Parak on the right. You bring in a kid like Carson Carls on the left. Not to say Calgary couldn't use some help up front, but they've got about a gazillion picks still left to go this year. They've got more picks coming up next year. Like that, they'll be all right. They can keep building.
Yeah, and then I will, if this plays out the way that this board is playing out, then Vigo Bjork would be the next best option for them there. Vigo, get a center. Yes, he's a bit undersized. Yes, they have some guys that they've drafted the last couple of years that aren't that big. Same time, I think that you get a high-level hockey sense. I think they would love to have Carls as well, but it just didn't work out that way in this board. I think there's a lot of good options. I mean, basically, if you're picking in that top 10, you're just kind of like, who's there? Who's available? Next best guy is probably going to be a really good pick for you. So I think you got to be happy with that. So we've got some differences, but I'll tell you what, we've got some how it plays out is going to be really interesting here. But these last few hours leading up to the draft, anything can happen. And now with the trade markets being as active as they are, Cam, it makes it even less predictable because there's more incentive on these teams to make sure that they're keeping everything really close to the vest. Most of them would assume they're not moving those picks. This year, it feels like a lot of them are like, hey, if we have the right deal, if the right deal's on the table, we're going to make it. We're going to make it. We're going to take it. Mm-hmm. So we'll see where that all goes. All right. So, Cam, I put out a clarion call for our listeners last week to provide ask questions of us. Then I also did it on Twitter. Got a great mix of questions from both Twitter and from our YouTube comments. And you guys can ask questions in the YouTube comments. We might not always answer them on the air, but today we are going to. And so we're going to go into our listener Q&A here because this will get us to a lot of different places on the draft board. It'll get us to a lot of different questions that you have. And there's a lot of intrigue in these questions. And Cam and I will do our best to answer them for you. Also, thanks to everyone in the chat or in the comments who referred to Vigo Bjork as BJ Rock, which is an inside joke from last episode when I accidentally misspelled his name on a list and then it was there and he's now BJ Rock. And this question uses that instead of Vigo's actual name. So we're going to go there. This one comes from AMH31 on our YouTube comments. He asks, what specific reasons is Caleb Malhotra above BJ Rocks for top-rated center? That's Vigo Bjork, just making sure everybody knows. Outside of being taller, I don't see anything Malhotra brings that is better than Bjork. Cam, I'll let you go first on this one, and then I've got some thoughts too.
I think Malhotra is a better finisher.
Yes.
I think he's a better handler by a little bit.
I would say that's
true. If we're going off of tool grades, give like Vigo a 6.5, give Caleb a 7 sort of thing. I think passing, they're probably comparable. Physical, they're probably comparable. I mean, maybe even edge to Vigo, but because he's undersized, that kind of washes it out.
Yeah.
But really, you're looking at, there is a big difference between 6'2" and 5'9" when you're matching up against.
There is, yeah, and the height.
Like, just no two ways about it.
Yeah, you can't just say you can't just wave it off because it really isn't that simple. It isn't that simple. I think that in the NHL, you're looking for any single advantage that you can have, and size is one of those that is still an advantage in the league. And having a bigger player that can do little things, there are just things that physically he can do differently than the other player. But to Cam's point, the finishing is a big factor. Having the scoring that he had this season, we've seen that Vigo, he is a dominant U20 scorer. He is but at the other levels, he hasn't necessarily been a dominant scorer. He's capable of creating offense. We don't have that example. We don't have that evidence for Caleb Malhotra, but we've seen him drive a line at the OHL level, be a top performer in the playoffs, be a productive player both on the power play and at even strength. So there's a lot of different things, and I think that that's why some teams will continue, and that's why ultimately Caleb was ahead of Vigo on my final list as well, and the size is a part of it, but there's also some things that he just does a little bit better. But it's one of those things where I think it's incremental differences, and then the size, if you think it's close, you're going to go with the bigger player most times.
I would like to say that I had Vigo. I would like to say that I did have Vigo ahead of Caleb on my list, though.
Right? Yeah, and that's fair. And that,
BJ rocks.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is BJ rocks. He does. He rocks. Vigo rocks. All right. This one came to us from Christoph on Twitter, and he goes, if you take the number one prospects in 2024, Celebrini, 2025, Schaefer, and 2026, presumably McKenna, is this still a below average class, or is it just a lack of a very good number one prospect that makes this a below average class? Thanks, and keep up the great work. Cam, I'll let you go first on that one.
So obviously those two players that he mentioned first are at a significantly different level, right? Celebrini is on pace to be maybe one of the best players ever. And Matt Schaefer did things that we've never seen an 18-year-old do in the league. So I don't think it's easy to compare that. And yes, the dip there, but I don't think that that's what makes this a weaker class. If you threw Schaefer in here instead of McKenna, it's still a weak class. It's still a weaker class. If you put Celebrini there, it's still a weaker class. Teams would be gunning for number one as best they could, but I don't think it would change because the below average rating, it's because of what happens in the middle of the first round for me, is where the gap happens there, where there's too many B grade prospects that are going to go on day one. There's too many C grade prospects that are going to go in the second round. That's what makes it a below average class, I think. Not the true talent at the top. I actually like the talent at the top. I think it's a very
top is
acceptable level.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the talent, the thing about this is I've said it, I don't feel like there's a number one in this class, but I feel like there's a lot of 2s, 3s, and 4s, guys that would go 2, 3, or 4 in other years. And so it's that's where there's a bit of a gap, but no question, the guy at the top of the class impacts the perception of the rest of the class all the time. And it'll take years for us to really fully evaluate each class on their own merit. But I do think that the thing that I'll say about this class is there are probably more players with clearer flaws than in some other years. I feel like there are things where it's this guy has this thing that is going to really make it challenging. He's going to have to overcome this to be that. And for some it's going to be size, which they have no control over. For some of them, it's other things like a skating deficiency or lack of physical play or lower compete level or maybe a hockey sense thing. So you can pinpoint those a little bit more easily, I feel like, in this class based on how some of these players are performing. And I think that's only going to become truer in this new landscape. Players are challenging themselves in different leagues, whether it's college, whether it's the pros, wherever they really are. This is going to be a situation where the players are going to be tested in different ways than they have previously been, which is, I think, was true of Keaton Verhoff and Gavin McKenna and Adam Valentini and the guys that played. And it's true of Vigo playing in the pros and Smith's playing in the pros. So lots of different things to consider there, lots of different things, but it's really interesting. All right. This one comes from G. Taylor on Twitter. And this question is, if the Sharks draft Ivar, how does he compare to current top wingers in their draft years and projections in the future, especially as playoff type players? So you think about the guys that they've drafted recently at the very top. It's guys like Misa and Will Smith. And Misa, we think, will probably move, and be a center. Smith more than likely on the wing. Then they have other guys like Chernyshov and Musty. Yes, thank you. And they did trade Haltunen in that other trade. So with Eklund. So So let's look at that. So I'll start, and then on Cam, I'll pass this one over to you because, for me, Vigo is I think he's such a great complementary piece to Macklin Celebrini. Or sorry, did I say Vigo? I did say Vigo. Thank you, Cam. You saved me. Ivar is a great complementary piece to Macklin Celebrini. I think he's going to go dig pucks. He's going to play that highly competitive style. He's got some finish to him. He's going to be able to distribute pucks pretty well. You got two guys that are willing to go to the net hard. So you've got all those things. And I think even if they don't play together, you've got guys on multiple lines that can do some of those things. So I think to me, Ivar is heads above some of those guys. The one thing I'm less certain about, I think Will Smith is such a smart, creative player, does a lot of things really well. You've got Misa's got this high skill level. How does I think Ivar is still, at worst and on par with those guys, wouldn't you say, Cam? Or do you think that he's maybe a little bit maybe behind? I don't know. You tell me.
You stack him and Meese up next to one another, and I think that those are two second overall picks that are going to project very favorably to a similar level, and that's a first line level. And so for Misa, he gets to play behind Macklin Celebrini. He's going to get secondary matchups, secondary D pairs. Hopefully he gets first power play time, but he's not going to get to run with Celebrini at even strength. So that's probably going to beat him a little bit. Get secondary wing options on his own team. But then you look at what they could be playing with on their wings, and it's those secondary options are looking pretty good too, right? I know that everybody sees it Stenberg and Celebrini would be such a dynamic duo, and I don't disagree with that. I think that they would be tremendous together. I also think Stenberg would be tremendous next to Misa too. I think that those two, because Misa plays a similar hard skill game based on speed. They would dig pucks. They would facilitate for each other. Looking at playoff performers, check the box between all three of those guys. Will Smith's a little more perimeter, a little softer skill. Maybe not that pure playoff style player that you're looking for, but then he's going to be surrounded by all those guys that can jam up too. So it's if you're looking at projections, everybody says Lucas Raymond for Stenberg, and I think that that's fine. I think that Stenberg is a better player than Raymond was in their draft years. I think more productive, more polished.
Yeah, I agree with that.
NHL ready.
Oh yeah,
right. Yeah. And I think higher upside too. So I think that the true comparable is somewhere some hybrid athlete that has never existed that is between Lucas Raymond and Kirill Kaprizov. Right. I think that it's somewhere because I don't think he's got Kirill the Thrill's ultimate upside. But I think it's above where Lucas Raymond is, who's that consistent kind of 75 to 85 point guy. I think that we could see Stenberg pushing into more to that 90 point range, especially if he's linked up with Celebrini on the hip. If they're connected at the hip, then oh boy, then now we could be looking at triple digits in this prime.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, this it's an interesting one. I think if you're the San Jose Sharks, your fortune of where you ended up in the draft multiple times. You were in the right spots at the right times to get.
You got to get lucky.
Core of your forward group. You do. You got to get lucky. You got to have things fall your way, and the New York Rangers will tell you, hey, we've had a 1 and a 2. We've had a 1 and a 2. So,
doesn't always work.
Not ideal.
Doesn't always work.
Yeah, it doesn't always
work. I hear Capo's on the block
work
again too.
Oh boy, yeah. There's a lot happening. Yeah, Seattle's actually a team that I'll be very interested to see kind of what ends up happening, because I think they've been active in looking and trying to find scoring. I think that they really were. I think Alex Tuck was a player they were really hoping they could nab, because they need scoring. They need scoring. That would have been an ideal fit kind of situation, and he is a Washington Capital now. So there that goes. All right. This next one comes to us from Blair G on YouTube. Let's get outside of the top 10 for a second. Let's talk a little bit about Tommy Bleyl. But this question from Blair is, in your opinion, what is holding Tommy Bleyl back from being ranked among the top-ranked D-men in the class? And I think there's two things. Well, there's actually three things, I will say. Number one is the size. He did measure in just shy of 6 feet at the combine. 2, defensively, there's still work to be done. And 3, we really only got 1 year of elite level evidence from him in terms of what he ultimately is. And he did it on one of the best teams in the QMJHL. So the numbers are massive. What I think is the reason that he's not part of that group is because it's less about Tommy and it's more about that group ahead of him. Those guys are in a different level than everybody. But for Bleyl, he's one of the best skaters in the draft. As Cam mentioned, he is rising up. Like, he's a guy that has some late heat here and coming into the draft. I think he could go as early as the teens, but more likely in the teens to late teens to the early 20s range. And he's a really fascinating player because of that skating component, because of the offensive game. He's supposedly going back to Michigan or to Moncton next year, and then going to Michigan State the year after that. Now that Landon DuPont isn't going to Michigan State, we know that, Michigan State should probably be saying, "You sure? Are you sure?" Because they do have, at least I believe they have a D spot if he wants it. So I would be intrigued to see what happens. But that's my thought on Tommy. Any additional thoughts there on that one, Cam?
I think you nailed the 3. I don't have anything to add on why he's not among the top guys. Like, the blazing speed is what puts him in that position to be like considered at that next group of defensemen, in the Ryan Lynn territory, right? who I think should be among the top defensemen, but it won't be probably on draft day in all likelihood. So he's in that mix. I guess Bleyl, that MSU knew he wasn't coming like way, way earlier this season, that he told them way earlier.
Right. Well, I think they do have 8 kids. He wouldn't be ready.
Yeah, exactly, right. And then he had this big year. Yeah, but I talked to the school, a couple of weeks ago, and they, confirmed that he wasn't coming. But that was before DuPont obviously made his decision. They do have 8 defensemen, though. I'm pretty sure they have 8 guys on the roster, and so they were going to have to make some room if Landon did go there. Did they run 9 last year? They might have had 9 on roster last year, even too. So it could have worked. But
I believe they did. Yeah, they were pretty deep.
Going back to Moncton will be fine for Tommy, though. I think that's a good spot. Obviously, we love Gardner McDougall. And then taking that path to MSU is going to be really great path for him to take. There's only so many that are that prime, so it'll be good for him. But yeah, some team's going to get themselves a real project because his evolution it's happening quickly before our eyes. So like, where's the ceiling? We don't know. Yeah.
He's an intriguing one for sure, and I'm looking forward to seeing where he ends up. Let's go to the Wolverines now, and this one comes from Mikey J8898 on YouTube. Comments. Is there something I'm missing with JP Hurlburt dropping out of the first round in a lot of mock drafts? 97 points in the W is pretty impressive. And Hurlburt, of course, headed to the University of Michigan and will be teammates with now Landon DuPont. But, Cam, I defer to you on this one. Why do you think, because he has dropped out of some mock drafts, but what are your thoughts on JP?
Yeah, JP, I'm just double checking here. Yeah, he just missed out on my first round too. I like the kid. He's got skill. Yeah. There's no denying he's got skill to step in as a rookie there for Kamloops and put up 97. You're right. That's no joke. I really didn't love the way he scored a lot of his points. I thought that they were very junior points a lot of the time, right? He loved to fly the zone and catch those big bomb outlet passes and get odd man rushes that way. Not happening. He's not a Blazer. He was a Kamloops Blazer, but he's not a tremendous skater. I think he needs to reinvent how he creates his offense, which is not an easy thing to do. I think that, again, going to Michigan is going to be good for him, especially if he takes his time and he spends a couple years there, maybe even three, because this next year he's going to be way down the lineup. He's going to be way down the lineup.
Yeah.
And then he'll take a step forward in year 2, and then he can try to be one of the guys as a junior, and then you come out hopefully ready to go. So I think definitely patience will be a virtue with JP. I do think he's a good kid, though, with skill, and so that if he's smart enough to figure out how to play and produce the right way, then there's top 6 upside there. I'm just really not convinced that is the likely outcome for him, which is why, in a class where I said there's going to be too many B grades going in day 1, he's one of them, right? He's a B grade that could go on day 1 or go early day.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. I think in a lot of years he would be more of a second round consideration. The reason that he's even kind of floated as a first round option is yes, because he had 97 points and people won't sneeze at that. But to Cam's point, things are a little too perimeter. Things are a little too like off the rush. Different things where you're just like, yeah, we're gonna need to find other ways. And I think that's part of like Michigan is known for their skill development because that's where Brandon Nerato's background is. He was more of a skill development guy, but it's also about how to create those chances. And I think that's something that JP is really going to need. So that's going to be interesting. But yeah, I think it's a good question. He is a guy that I think, he still very well could slip into the first round. But like I think in a lot of years, that's a player that typically does go in the second. And so you'll have to see what happens there. Cam, here's another one from YouTube. The YouTube comments, Invisible99. Who are the top goalies, or who is the top goalie in this draft class? And does San Jose need another goalie prospect? That's the other question. The first part, they have Ravensburgen, who's headed to Michigan State next year. They spent the first round pick on them. I don't know that that's necessarily a direction they need to go. But Cam, who do you have as the top goalie in this class?
Trezbal, Tobias out of Youngstown.
Yeah, me too.
I've got him, and I think that he's widely considered one of the top 2 or 3 for most teams. Borichev, obviously, we mentioned him already playing in Loco in the MHL. Those kind of seem like the top 2 guys, and then it's like who knows? And honestly, like I can listen to the goalie guys we got at EP. I can talk to teams and be like, who do you like at goal? And like a couple names will come up. Number 1, Brady Noling, just because he's an American and he's tall. Yeah, but I don't think teams really like him.
6'5",
what's that other Russian kid, Proskurin? I think that teams like him a little bit too. Bodiger, who came out of Kelowna,
Latvia.
But
there's
now we're looking mid-round stuff.
There's a lot of names we could throw. Yeah, we could basically just throw out a ton of names. I think Treball is the guy that a lot of teams are viewing as the top guy. Borichev is also in that conversation. Just the fact of the matter is like the Americans and the Canadians are having a much harder time keeping up with their European counterparts. They're still going. They're still getting opportunities. But I think the next couple classes, we're going to be looking at a lot more of these guys that are European goalies. There's guys like Hrenak, who was great at the World Juniors, or did not great at the World Juniors, made the World Junior team, but then didn't really play. Then he goes to Fargo. There's Brady Noling, as you mentioned. Teams that might want to work with him, a 6'5" goalie, and just see if they can get him developed. There's a lot of guys with terrible numbers, Noling being one of them, where it's just like the evidence isn't necessarily there, but the tools are there. And so teams will still take a chance on the tools relative to the track record. All right, we'll buzz through a little bit more. And this one is interesting because of the way that your mock draft went. And this was not planned. This was asked of us on Twitter a couple days ago. So Kent on Twitter asked, regarding Chase Reid and the potential of him going number 3, why would the Canucks or any Canadian team draft American players now knowing that at some point they just want to go south? Why take that risk? Cam is the resident Canadian. I'd love for you to bat lead off on that one.
Okay. So Quinn Hughes was drafted 7th overall by the Canucks. Won himself a Norris. Greatest defenseman franchise history. Wanted out because the team was a tire fire. Oh, look, they got 4 first-round picks back, basically, in the form of player or pick. Okay, that's not terrible. Zach Werenski wants to go somewhere. Guess what Columbus is going to get? 4 first-round pick value, right? Brady Tkachuk just left. They're getting first-round picks. So it's like, yeah, you don't want it. You don't want these guys to be leaving. But at the end of the day, am I going to take a lesser player because I think that in 8 to 10 years, this American's going to want to go and link up with his buddies and go play somewhere else? I'm not playing scared like that. I'm not playing scared like that, Chris. That's not how I'm operating. Teams can talk about it. I'm sure they are talking about it internally. JP got asked about it. Did you get asked these type of questions? You're an American. are you going to stick around? And he's like, they're asking like where you see yourself in the future, but like, what are you expecting to get in these questions from these kids? The answers, right? Like, just take the best players. Like, I don't care if he's Russian. I don't care if he's American. You figure it out. And I strongly believe this. Even though we're seeing the era of the super teams growing. If you build correctly, if you give players an opportunity to win, if you can be concise and you can, tell them what the plan is, crystal clear. Here's what the plan is. Follow through on the plan. Build a winner. Guys are going to stick around. You're going to be able to get guys to come to you, and you're going to be able to keep your own players. So if you're afraid of players leaving, maybe you got to do a better job keeping them. I know some things are out of their control, I will say, but that's my thought.
No. That's my answer too, Cam. I'm in lockstep with you on this one. I think the fact that you do get it's like did Ottawa memory erase 8 years of Brady Tkachuk where they were actually building towards competitiveness? Like, that's the thing, is like, you can't memory hole that stuff. It doesn't go away. And the thing is, you like Cole Caulfield seems perfectly happy in Montreal. I think Montreal and Toronto are probably in different situations. Lane Hudson is, like, teams are going to go and you put them in situations. And yes, like, I don't think it's the media. I don't think it's like, I was listening to 32 Thoughts, and Elliot was talking about how he thought that some of those guys felt hated in their own markets. And I was like, maybe they did, but there's no way that that's going to be like the reason that those guys left there. I don't think they're necessarily afraid of that. I think that it's just these American players, like, it is different. Like, a lot of them, they didn't grow up dreaming of being playing in a Canadian market, but they still, they want to be NHL players. They want to be NHL players. They want to do well. And I think, the Vancouver situation with Quinn, that was a tire fire of their own making. Like, it just really wasn't that wasn't like, you have to do things differently. And I think if there was a way to get Quinn, the pieces and all that other stuff, I don't think he would have said that. But when you lose the vision, and like, that's the thing, like, Montreal clearly has a vision. Toronto's vision has changed a bunch, but Matthews is waiting to see what it's going to be. There's a lot there. So don't be afraid of the Americans. Although there was one scout who did tell me that the Americans there's now an American factor. There's no Russian factor. It's the American factor. And it's mostly regarding guys from the National Team Development Program. I think he was joking.
I've got one last thought on this.
Yes, please do.
We can stop blaming the passports so much. And let's start blaming the no movement clause. Quit handing out NMCs like Tic Tacs. Okay. You look at every other major sport out there, there's a couple no moves, right? The NHL's got like 200. You see guys like third pair guys getting no moves. Like, what are we doing with that? Modified no trades. Like, that's the real issue. And I actually had a conversation with a GM earlier today. And he's like, we're screwed. Like, we're on so many no trade lists. All these guys get their no moves. They only want to go to a handful of places. I was like, that's a problem. That's a problem for the league. Like, the GMs are going to have to start pulling back on the no moves, and the cap's rising. So forever, it kind of got like sexy, especially like early 2010s, I feel like, where teams like Vancouver, Mike Gillis, was trying to, maximize value. So he was giving all his guys no moves and getting them to take less on the cap so you could build those teams. And it made sense at the time. But then even they got handcuffed when he got kicked, and Kessler's like, I want to go to Anaheim and Anaheim only. And that was the kind of the beginning of what we're seeing now. Now there's like this. Now you can be a franchise player and you can be like, I want to trade and I want to go to that team. And that team's like, well, we're the only team. We'll give you this. Take it or leave it, right? Like, that really sewers everything.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good for the teams, and like, that's the thing, is like, they were like coupons. They were the nice, like, I get 15% off with the no move clause, and it's like, all right, okay, sounds good, So for you guys, NHL general managers need to stop their coupon clipping and start putting their foot down and just give them more money instead, and have some flexibility. And that, I mean, you look at that, Cam, too, and how that has impacted the job of just like the entertainment factor. The player movement is entertaining. Like, it's one of the biggest things that we want to talk about, and you can't do it because everybody's got a no move clause. So you have to caveat the heck out of everything. So that's no fun. Speaking of trades, we got another question here, and this was from Mr. Ed Wayner on YouTube comments. He says, do you think less teams will trade down and more teams are trying to move up because of so many of those defensemen being available at the top of the draft. So do you think we'll see more teams attempt to move up? And obviously we just saw Buffalo get into the top 5 out of nowhere. Do we see any other teams attempting to make some moves up into the top? And are any of those teams at the top even willing to move down at this point?
Listen, I think Pittsburgh is trying to do some stuff. I think Pittsburgh would love to get up into that 7-8 range if they could to get Vigo. I think that is a team that I would earmark has nothing to do with the D-men. I don't know if there's going to be teams that are looking to jump up and get in on that tail end of that group of D, that Verhoff, Rudolph, because you've got Gustafsson sitting, you've got Ryan Lynn, you've got, there's going to be some options a little bit further down the board in the middle of that first round. But I think there's probably a number of teams that are hoping and praying that Vigo slips even to like 10, 11. Right, Nashville, I could see being like, "Oh, thank you very much."
Yep.
St. Louis.
Yeah.
But yeah, Pittsburgh's a team I'm definitely watching to see if they can put something together to get up there and take him.
Yeah. I think there are definitely teams that are interested. One team I've got an eye on is St. Louis with 4 first-round draft picks. We didn't even get a chance to talk about them, but 4 first-round draft picks. Are they making all those picks? Can you? They're in on Pettersson those to too. Move up into a little bit. Yeah, I mean, like, hey, this is
they're out there.
That would be interesting. So yeah, I guess
that's a great buy low opportunity.
More immediate help. Yeah. Oh, on Elias Pettersson, buy low.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Buy low. I'm saying Elias Pettersson. That I think St. Louis is definitely kicking around on EP there, and I think that would be a tremendous buy low for whoever. I think that there are a number of teams now that Vancouver shifted. Before, when it was Rutherford calling the shots, it was like, if we're going to trade Pettersson, we need an equal center in return. And no one's like, well, why are we going to do that? So now they're like, we'll take picks and prospects and even eat some salary. Yeah, you get Pettersson at $9 million with the way the cap's going. Even if he never becomes a 100-point guy again, even if he becomes an 80-point guy again, you're like, great. He's good defensively. He's still young. That'd be a really great situation for a number of teams to get him.
Yep. That'd be fascinating. So keep an eye. I still think that we saw this very active trade market. I think we're going to see an active trade market over the next couple of days, and I think that we're going to see a number of picks move. Hopefully, none have moved while we're recording. I don't know, Cam, if you're keeping an eye on Twitter while we're doing this.
I just missed a call from an exec. I wonder if something cool happened there.
Oh, okay. Well, let's hurry up. Let's wrap up these last couple of questions and get that out of here so you can make that call back. All right, here we go. Last 2. We've got 2 more questions to go and we'll get out of here. This one comes from Steven on Twitter. Do you guys think that Villeneuve is most likely to go in the first or the second? I know it's not an easy one, but just curious. What do you think, Cam? First or second round more likely for our guy Xavier Villeneuve?
What's Stephen Ellis sending us questions? I thought he was supposed to know what he's talking about.
I wish it was Stephen Ellis. It's not. Yeah, he should answer that.
It is, for sure. It's definitely Ellis.
Don't set him on fire this draft, please.
I didn't set him on fire that last time either. Someone else did.
No, he set himself on fire. Well, actually, the waitress did.
No. Somebody else set him on fire, and I think he should have gone for the lawsuit too.
I still blame him.
Yeah, fair enough. He made a poor choice. Okay, people are like, what the hell are they talking about?
Yeah, exactly. Villeneuve, this is just for me and Cam.
Yeah. Wheeler's laughing somewhere too. I think he goes in round 1. I still think he goes in round 1. It's just because at the end of round 1, why not take a cut? Why are we taking guys that are going to be like, hey, well, let's hope he's a 4th-line center, right? Ignavicius or whatever. Like, I think that you can do better. I think you can take a cut and get something, and if it doesn't work out, oh well. A team who has multiple first-round picks. A team like Carolina that's not afraid to swing on talent. I think that Boston could absolutely use some puck moving, some playmaking on their blue line. They're picking whatever, 23, 24. I think like that, once we hit that zone, I think he should absolutely be an option. And I do think he will go on round 1. That's my prediction, but obviously he could certainly go in round 2 as well, right? Like, he's not well loved.
Yeah.
Among some teams.
No, it's right. So I think it's 50-50. I think there's a chance he could go in there. I don't know, but I think you look at if you're one team, then you're just like Carolina or something, you're like, we take it. I think he'd be a great bet in the later stages of that round. So yeah, so we'll have to see where that all ends up. But yeah, so that's I think it's 50-50. He could go either way. I think it's tough to predict. I know I'm sure people are hoping, that he's there. I think he could make a really great day 2 pick. If he doesn't go in the first round, I think the team would be very happy. But he's one that I feel like has left a little bit. All right. I think we're running short on time, so I'm going to skip past this last question because I want to put you and myself. We're going to do it. You have to pick one because I want to go do that one time. And it's just, we talked about what we predicted would happen. If you're Mike Grier with the number 2 pick and you're faced with the decision of Ivar Stenberg or Chase Reid, what are you specifically doing?
I'm taking Stenberg. Stenberg was 2 on my board. I'm taking the best player available, and I'm worrying about everything else later. And I've said it for a while. You take a William Eklund and you trade him for a young right shot defenseman. Didn't work out that way. But now you got number 9. Maybe you take number 9 and you add some stuff to it and you trade it for a young right shot defenseman. Like I think you just get all the talent that you can. I know you don't want to end up like the Maple Leafs where you got all the forwards, you got no D. But I think Grier is smart enough to recognize and solve that, and aggressive enough, right? He's decisive and aggressive enough to solve that issue, and or sit on 9 and take a right shot D there too. I think that Chase Reid would absolutely be a good pick for them, But I would take Stenberg.
Yeah, I think it's a really, honestly, I think it is a difficult decision because I think the opportunity to get the opportunity to get, as Mike Grier even said, even in a trolling capacity potentially, that right shot D with mobile don't grow on trees, and they really don't. And they are very difficult to come by. And so if I'm faced with this, like when I did my rankings, I did have Stenberg 2 and Reid 3. So if I have to be I'm honoring my list, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go with Stenberg. But I think that in a situation where I'm looking at the long-term gain, I think the same conversation had to have happened even in Toronto's draft room with that discussion as well, just because of we are looking for this thing that we can't seem to get, and we need to get that somehow. Mm-hmm. The draft is typically the way to do it. Now, you do have those, sometimes it costs you 4 first-round picks to get to get Quinn Hughes. It's probably going to cost you 4 first-round picks to get a Zach Werenski. This one costs you 1. It's a big one, but it costs you 1. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, that's the thing. So, I will also take Stenberg in this because I'm sticking to my list and I'm taking the best player available. But the conversation would have to be comprehensive in that decision to make that pass, because Chase Reid, if he was more of a lock to be a number 1 defenseman, if I felt so confident that he was going to be a number 2, it's a totally different discussion. But there's just
then he's 2 on our board already.
Say
he might be
exactly
1, right? He might be 1 if you were like, that's a number 1.
If you guarantee me, if you give me a 100% number 1 defenseman versus those 2 guys, I'm taking the number 1 defenseman all the time. So that's that. Yeah, 90% chance. I'm taking that. So that's where we end up with that. Cam, you're on the ground. You're in Buffalo. Tell us what to expect from you, because I've already seen you. I've seen you lurking around. I've seen the content coming out. What do we got going on EP and on your personal socials as well?
Well, I'm like 2 blocks from Gabriel's Gate, so you can expect some chicken wings. I think that's
love that.
Yeah, they got me out.
That's number 1 on my list. That's my first draft pick is Gabriel's Gate, number 1.
I almost did it last night, but got some Mexican last night. That was actually a good time too.
Okay, all right.
That's old Buffalo Mexican. It was very good, very surprising.
I like it.
Okay, so dropped the bold predictions. My annual article. That's like the 8th year in a row or something. Like I've done that, and those are a lot of fun. I like to go back and look at them, and I get a surprising amount. Maybe I'm not spicy enough. I'm getting too many right. That came out. The mock draft just came out. Top 64. That's loaded with me pushing everybody, all my sources, to try to get as many right as I can. Tomorrow I will release what we're hearing. So it's just a big, I'll just vomit out everything I'm hearing and have that come out right before the draft. Lots of good social media stuff. Obviously, follow us over there on Instagram and TikTok. We're putting out a lot of fun stuff. I brought some old gear. I brought some old gear with me. Packed my Vapor 8s. Packed my Vapor 8s, my old skates. Packed my Eagle Pro Glows, the X72s, the old Todd Bertuzzi specials, and I'm giving them to the boys. And they're guessing what year they were from, if they could, if they had to play with them, how many draft slots are they falling down, and like what player made them famous, and like just like Albert Smits holding the Vapor 8 skates, and he goes, he's like he's like, these must be from the 70s. They're from the 70s. I was like, that's great. Yeah, so that was pretty good. Vigo figured he was going to be a do not draft with those Jets. So yeah, we got some really good content coming out.
Yeah, well, keep up the great work out there. It's been fun to follow. We've got the FloHockey team is on the ground as well. You can follow the FloHockey socials. They're at everything. We got Devin and Babs and David from our team out there. So make sure you're following the FloHockey socials. I'll have my own mock draft, 2-round mock draft coming out on Friday morning. Also a quick notebook on the day. And then, as I mentioned before, we'll be joining the Athletic Hockey Show and FloHockey on the NHL Draft Live. We'll be streaming live over the course of the first round. That'll be Corey Prom and Scott Wheeler, myself, and Max Boltman, and you will be able to watch that on the Athletic Hockey Show YouTube page, FloHockey's YouTube page, and also across FloHockey platforms, including FloHockey 24/7. Trying something new this year. We'll see how it goes. Let's see if we can expand it. Maybe have the called up boys involved to start doing some more of that stuff. Unless they centralize the draft, and then we're all just going to go back. But either way, until they do that, we're going to have some fun. So make sure you check that out. That'll be both on Friday and then a post-draft recap show on Saturday after all the picks are made. So make sure you tune into that. But Cam, this has been honestly the lead up to this draft and all the work that we've done throughout the season on this show together, all the different conversations we've had. It finally leads up to this, and we can stop speculating and actually see what the picks happen. I mean, I cannot wait. It's been such a fun ride this year because it's been weird as heck this year. But man, first of all, like before I thank the audience, thank you, buddy. This has been an absolute blast of a season. It's growing. People are watching in greater number every single week. But man, thank you for all the contributions you've made on this show, because it's been a blast so far this year, and we're not done yet.
We're not done yet, and I was about to say, I mean, we're not done. Maybe same time next year. Maybe we run it back. Eh?
Yeah, exactly. We're running it back. We're running it back. Let's keep it. The show goes on. Yeah, I mean, like we've got a lot to get to. So make sure you follow all of our content on both sides. FloHockey, Elite Prospects, we're all working our butts off to give you guys the best information that we can, and also try to get you ready for this. Get this ready. I don't know. I can't even talk. Thank you for joining me from my mom's basement. This was definitely an experience. I'm like looking around. It looks a lot different than when I was a kid. I used to have like a Chris Chelio stick over here, like game used over there, and that's gone. There's all sorts of stuff happening here. So but just wanted to say thanks to everybody for watching the show throughout the season. We will have a draft recap show next week. We'll talk about other things. We'll also probably talk a little bit about the free agency and other things going on. So make sure you join us next week as well. But thank you so much for watching and listening. Thank you to everybody who asked questions. Thanks to Nikki for producing today, my co-host Cam, for all of us here at Called Up the Prospects podcast. Thank you so much. Enjoy the draft, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Woo.